pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, welcome everybody to our general meeting, 1 o'clock here, May 1st, Town Hall. I will ask the Secretary Treasurer to call the roll.
William Parrott.
Present.
Ann Walker.
Here.
Edward J. Warner.
Present.
William Pell, present. Scott M. Horowitz.
I am present. Thank you very much for that, and welcome to the folks that are on Zoom. If you have any joining us here from out in TV land. Our next trustee meeting for the public's information is Monday, May 15th. 9:30 a.m. will be the work session, followed by the general session at 1 p.m. On the communications front, we do have a letter from the mayor of the village of Sagaponack, which we dealt with earlier today, and so I'll dispense with reading of that, and we'll get right to the heart of our meeting, because I see we have a group here. We have a discussion on, it's the North Haven Water Quality Committee, okay, and I'd like to say hello and welcome you all. Scott M. Horowitz, President of the Board of Trustees, and we're very interested to hear what it is that you have to say. So I'll give you the floor.
Thank you.
You can all just state your names clearly for the record, and there's a sign-in sheet there, James?
Yes.
Yeah.
It's up on the
So if you, this way we keep our minutes straight. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Good afternoon. I'm Terry Diad. I am one of the village trustees for the Village of North Haven, representing the Water Quality Committee, who I have with me here today. I'll allow them to introduce themselves.
Hi, Chris Remkus.
Well, you're gonna have to speak from here, so when you,
Terry, maybe
Okay,
if
I'll
you
introduce
Yeah, if you wanna.
So our Water Quality Committee is Chris Remkus, Chris Duryea, Wes Fry, former mayor,
Jeff.
oh my gosh, Jeff Sander. Jeff Sander.
the stage
and-
right.
And we have another member who's not able to join us today, Stephanie Joyce.
Okay, thank you.
So thank you so much for giving us some of your time today. We prepared a short PowerPoint to take us through the agenda, which is brief. There are a few things we wanted to share with you. First is to share with you what our program is for 2023, to give you an idea of what our priorities are and what we're working on. And then a few specific agenda items that we would like to have a discussion on today with you. One is around Gannett Creek, and specifically to request this board to add back to the Suffolk County priority dredging list at Gannett Creek. There is some repair work that will be taking place on the bulkhead, which has been preventing that from being back on the dredging list, so we'd like to have a discussion about that today. And the other discussion item that we would like some input from you on is around Great Salt Pond. That is an important estuary for us on North Haven, and we'd like to have a discussion around restoring the aquatic health on that estuary today. So to dive right in, first a little bit of a summary around North Haven. If you haven't visited us recently, we are a peninsula surrounded by water between Sag Harbor Village and Shelter Island. On the interior of the village, we have 5 major water bodies: Gannett Creek, Fresh Pond, Great Salt Pond, Mashamuck Creek, and Poles Creek. We'll show you a little map in a moment to orient you. And our water quality is affected by internal factors, as many of our villages out east are: fertilizers, septic, road water runoff, and restricted flow. And external factors, of course, ocean acidification, proximity to Sag Harbor's water treatment plant, and pollution outflow from the Peconic River. And prior to the formation of this committee, which was put in place just last year, really there had been no concentrated efforts to address issues affecting the water quality. So we've really been in place for less than a year, and we are really trying to put the right focus around improving the water quality for North Haven, because it is very important. So to share with you the activities that we are undertaking this year, First and foremost is to educate and engage the residents of North Haven around what everybody in our small village can do towards improving water quality. So we have activities planned for this year around educating our residents around IA septic systems and the grants that are available to the homeowners. We are planning for a presentation. The Peconic Estuary Partnership has offered to come and make that presentation to our homeowners. And they will be bringing a representative from the county to talk about the rebates that are available from the state and the county. And we have connected with Town of Southampton CPF, and they will also be coming to talk about the rebates that are available from Town of Southampton. So we're excited about that, and we hope that homeowners will be coming to learn more about that. We've started tracking how many IA systems have been put in already, how many are under construction, so that will be a KPI that we will make visible across the village and try and incentivize people to put more in willingly. We also have a presentation planned on the impact of fertilization on water quality. We have Edwina Von Gaal coming from Perfect Earth Project to come and talk about the impact that people can have by using alternatives to fertilization and natural landscaping in their homes. So we hope that people will be excited about that. She's a well-known speaker, and people can do different things in their properties that will improve water quality. So we hope that that will be an exciting presentation and a draw where people can be excited about some alternatives that will improve our water quality. We also are engaging in a couple different ways with Dr. Gobler. We're very excited about his announcement for Project Carbon that will be the pilot project that will be taking place off of the east side of North Haven with some of the pilots around kelp gardens and the planting of eelgrass and oyster reefs. So we are hoping to also engage and educate residents around what they can do as well with oyster farming. We have not yet, but we hope to reach out to the Cornell Cooperative and educate some of our waterfront homeowners on how they can also do some oyster farming. Some members of our committee, as well as my family, already does oyster farming, so we know that that also can help with water quality and is a fun thing to do for families who are, have the opportunity to do that on North Haven. So those are some of the engagement opportunities that we are planning for residents. We will also be, advertising these through our monthly newsletter, through our website, and other ways to let people know about them. We've already begun on number 2 with village infrastructure projects. With the help of our village engineer, we've identified, I think, in the neighborhood of 6 to 7 opportunities across the village to upgrade areas where there's clearly stormwater runoff that are going into either the bay or into our creeks or ponds. So we have plans to upgrade those, and we in March we applied for a CPF grant to put in an IA septic system at Village Hall. So we're hoping we will get some financial assistance to make that infrastructure improvement. The third one is around enforcement of one of the codes that we already have on our books, which is for waterfront property, waterfront to wetland facing properties. We do have a code that but requires homeowners to put in a vegetated buffer. And we do find that some homeowners, after they put those in, remove them. So we are planning to increase the enforcement around that and make sure that people maintain those because that's very important as well to prevent runoff of chemicals and fertilizer into the bays and the surrounding wetlands. And the fourth is around ongoing water quality testing. So again, we've engaged Dr. Gobler to do water quality testing from May to October at the 5 key North Haven water bodies. He did some baseline testing last September, so we've got a couple of points of baseline water quality testing, and now we will have some consistent ongoing for the first time ever, so that we will understand really the water quality in these key water bodies on North Haven. And then the fifth is around restoring the health of Gannett Creek, Fresh Pond, and Great Salt Pond, and that's where some of our discussion will take place with you all today, to ask for your help and input. For Gannett Creek and Great Salt Pond, we will get into that discussion. On Fresh Pond, we had a discussion a few weeks ago with Trustee Parrish and Trustee Welker, and we do understand that there has been dredging that has taken place in that pond previously, and there is work underway to request a renewal of that permit, hopefully for this year. So we are happy that is underway, and that helps with the tidal flow into that key water body as well. So those are the objectives we have for this year. We think that these are the right actions and steps to take to get started in North Haven and to engage our residents as well, to help us with improving water quality. We did do a survey about 18 months ago on North Haven for the priorities that our residents thought were important, and water quality was very high at the top of the survey. So we know that people think that this is important, and we think that people will become very engaged with these actions. So this is a little map of North Haven. You can see where those key water bodies are that we are focusing on in the interior. Of course, it's not to leave out the bays that surround North Haven as well. Those actions that we're taking will help to improve the water quality for them as well. So at this point, I am going to hand the presentation over to my colleague, Chris Remkes, who's going to speak about Gannett Creek and Great Salt Pond with you.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. Chris Remkes. I live in North Haven Shores, and our community abuts to the Gannett Creek, and we have a small association there called Gannett Creek Association, which borders to the east of that creek. On the other side of that would be North Haven Point. So Gannett Creek is certainly an important estuary in North Haven itself. It is not only a navigable creek, which is suffering from fill at the entrance, but also it extends all the way back to North Haven Village Hall. Perhaps if I could zip over to a slide here, you can see the extent of it. I know the laser pointer is not going to work, but at the very top you can see the entrance, and it flows all the way down to that lower right corner, and that's actually where North Haven Village Hall is located. So it's approximately 1.5 miles long by about 1 mile wide. Historically, the creek has been dredged by the Suffolk County with the help or the instruction by the Southampton Town trustees. The last time it was dredged was in 2013. I believe Scott Strow was responsible at that point for arranging the dredging. Since that time, though, we've performed some maintenance dredging of the creek, and we've shared the costs between North Haven Point and North Haven Association, because the last time we met with the folks here, and we engaged also Bridget Fleming, we were told that due to the disrepair of the bulkhead itself, in particular the North Haven Point bulkhead, that the trustees and the county would not dredge until that was repaired. North Haven Point now has obtained permits for the dredging, for the bulkhead reconstruction. I think there's just one last piece of information that's pending, which was an insurance certificate. But my understanding is they all now have their permits in place. Although on the east side, on North Haven Shores Association, we also have a bulkhead which we plan to repair at the northernmost point. And we're working through that permitting process right now with the DEC and the Army Corps to get those permits in place. And then I'm sure they will come to the town as well. And Costello Marine is doing those permits for us. Importantly to note is that Gannett Creek was actually closed to shell fishing by the DEC just about a year ago today. Actually, I received the letter on May 2nd, 2022. This came right after my son had just done an Eagle project where he raised oysters and he put in oyster beds in the creek, and he made mini reefs which we put under our docks to help to establish marine growth. And Chris Duryea, my neighbor as well, had oysters put in, and within a month of doing that we received the closure notification from the DEC. And the reason was they had tested and found high levels of fecal coliform. They didn't specify the origin of the fecal coliform, so at one point we're hoping to get Dr. Gobler and his lab at Stony Brook to determine whether it would be deer, goose, what have you. I mean, our suspicion is that it's probably a mixture of deer and goose rather than septic system, because, unless there's literally a septic system that's failing, that's draining straight into the creek, it's highly likely going to be animal or avian fecal coliform. So in that case, it becomes less of an issue. But of course, the DEC doesn't test for that. They just find high levels, and then they shut it down. And unfortunately, it's easy for them to shut it down. It's very difficult to get them to reopen it. So we had to disband our oyster programs in the creek itself. Part of the reason I think we find that you would get levels like this is the tidal flow in there, because the creek entrance does shoal over with the littoral flow of sand that comes from the west to the east. It wraps around the bulkhead and forms a large sandbar on that west side of the bulkhead, and it closes off the creek. So we're hoping that, from the last meeting that we had with the trustees here, Chris, I think it was 2019, together with Bridget Fleming, there was somewhat of a quid pro quo to say, if you guys get North Haven Point to fix their bulkhead, we will help you reestablish on the county's dredging list. And in fact, the last picture I saw on the county's website, I think was from 2016, where both Gannett Creek and Great Salt Pond were listed as dredging targets for the county. So, we're hoping with your support that we could get back on the dredging list. We really feel, honestly, all of us, that this is the major water body of North Haven, which services so much. There was an article in the Sag Harbor Express from 100 years ago where over a week they took 50 bushels of clams out of Gannett Creek. And I think you'd be hard pressed to get a half a dozen out of there today. These bodies of water are just so important to North Haven and to the health of all of the Peconics, because I grew up on Great Salt Pond, so back from the 60s through, and that was just an absolute incubator for scallops. Every strand of eelgrass would have 10 small bugs of scallops on there. And they would, there would be the American eels in there. You could fill eel cars load. You could get easily a bushel of green crab, or blue claw crabs, excuse me, every time you went crabbing in there. And now, I mean, it's basically a desert. And really, that creek has completely closed off. And, that's sure that there's, some kind of natural progression, but there's also a lot of factors that cause these things to happen, like fertilization, like road runoff, various different constructions. It's really up to us to maintain these creeks, and we really feel it's important that we focus on these two bodies of water in particular, as well as keeping Fresh Pond in focus as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else going to speak from your group, or you got more?
Yeah, okay. Okay, so this is, I'd have to probably zoom in on this if you could see, but these are pictorial or aerial views of Great Salt Pond from 1962, which was pulled off the county's website, and then current off of Google Maps. And if you could see where it's marked with the arrows.
Yeah, they're not going to pick you up unless
Yeah.
you're...
The arrows indicating the width of the channel to the creek entrance. It was literally something you could practically jump across, but it was 5 to 6 feet deep. Now if you look, it must be 100 feet across, and it's just one large sandbar. And then where it enters into the creek was a very small sandbar, and now it's just a huge delta of a sandbar. That has also caused the creek walls to collapse. I mean, I used to pull bank mussels out of there and sell them to my uncle at his fishing station for $5 a bushel, and you could have as many as you wanted. Now you'd be hard pressed, to get half a bushel out of there. And you can see large bodies of marsh that are just completely gone, have completely collapsed into the creek. And so without flushing, you're going to get higher water temperatures in there. You're going to get the eelgrass dying off, because eelgrass is very susceptible to water temperature. Then you're not going to have the scallop bugs growing and being the incubator for the peconics. So it's really key that we figure out a way. And this creek in particular has an excellent landmass that sits right in front of it, that barrier beach, that spoils could be put onto. So that would be a fairly straightforward dredging project, I would think.
If there is such a thing.
Yeah, exactly. So, we're seeking your input and support to begin the process to exploring that dredging. And as Terry mentioned, I believe there has been dredging that was done in Fresh Pond years ago. It probably dates back to the late 70s or early 80s. Great Salt Pond should have been dredged as well. There was one neighbor on the creek that put up an argument against it. Of course, one voice shut down the whole operation, where everybody else wanted it done, unfortunately. But so the objective would be to improve the water quality, to restore the tidal flow that was in there. I mean, there used to be the ability to drive outboard, small outboards and dinghies through there. You couldn't get a canoe through there these days. The eelgrass has completely dissipated, and now there's some kind of other, I don't know if it's invasive, but some other form of grass is growing in there, which is choking off, I'm sure, all the oxygen. There's, as it says, we actually have never dredged, as far as I know, that creek. And as I mentioned, the spoils could easily be placed on the fronting of the bay beach there, that barrier beach.
Good to know.
Thank you.
Thank
Just a couple of quick backups. So this is some of the work that we've done with Chris Gobler. You can see high levels of chlorophyll also in the creek's dissolved oxygen levels below the standard in many cases. fecal coliform.
Yeah.
Enterococcus. And just a quick picture. So there's Mashamook Creek, there's Fresh Pond, and there's Great Salt Pond. Thank you.
Thank you. I mean, first and foremost, thank you for your presentation. And you got one more? You got more? More want to speak?
No.
Can I just?
You go ahead, speak, absolutely. Absolutely.
I'll sign in after. Nicola Denardis, 23 North Harbour Drive. I'm here representing the Fresh Pond Committee of our residents. There's 5 of us, and we've met before because we've been working with 2 of the trustees, speaking once a month to renew our dredging permit. But I'm very encouraged to hear that there's a general committee that wants to support all the ponds in North Haven because it's so essential. And we see our pond is dredged approximately every 5 years. And it silts up in between. And as we know, you used to be able to drive boats in there, and now it is barely a canoe. And the water is so shallow that in the summertime it becomes very, very hot and everything is killed off. So it's really essential that we do something. They can't be left to themselves anymore. And I also know that on the Great Salt Pond, there are people on the other side of our association who would definitely be keen in working with you because they've all been murmurings about how it needs to be sorted out because like Fresh Pond, it just can't be left to its own devices. So I really hope that the county will support all of us in this because it's really essential.
Okay.
So thank you
Thank
very
you.
much.
Okay, so first of all, I want to thank you all for coming here today and bringing this to our attention. I mean, being the board that's, the oldest elected board that there is in the country that's charged with the responsibility of the underwater lands of the town and the waterways and some of the roadways and obviously the historic easements that protect us all in the public access way. It's a big job, it's a big town. But when you have a group that's engaged like yourselves, it makes it a little easier to kind of battle a very difficult situation. Obviously you're pointing out things that we see and we're dealing with every day. The place looks totally different than it did half a century ago in many aspects. And we're all remembering those days when the boats went in certain areas and there was a beach at the end of the road that we used to picnic at, and that's gone now, and everything's changed, and we're all trying to battle Mother Nature and the effects of all of the upland uses that have brought the runoff and the stuff in from the septic systems, the fertilizer, everything that you pointed out. And after sitting on this board, this is my 5th term on this board, and I sat on the conservation board for 2 terms prior, to see a group so engaged as yourself with a plan of what you're doing education-wise, getting buy-in from the residents, collaborating with, the Cornell and with Dr. Goldberg. These are all things that this board does on a regular basis, and to see that you're already in that direction, and now you're coming to include us, I think is a good thing, because we're all working on this, all the time. That being said, and I know Trustee Warner wants to address a couple things as well. These are big, heavy lift problems that I think only have the chance of getting solved by good collaboration and people staying focused on a solution, and that's what we're all here for. So, I'll work with you as best as I possibly can, and I know this board will. But understanding, these are massive, budgeting is always a problem when you're trying to get things done. There are, a tremendous amount of concerns from regulatory authorities when it comes to dredging, whether fish are spawning or what type of bird is in the area, what type of submerged aquatic vegetation are we going to be hindering. It goes on and on. The things that, North Sea Harbor dredging, which is a constant for public access and all the commerce that it supports, even getting these things done are very challenging to us. Maybe you've seen the struggles that this board has had in keeping the Mecox Bay ecosystem alive, all the farms and all the people that live around there, and the millions, if not billions, of shellfish and how those effects are on our community if it's not managed appropriately. So I really can't thank you enough for coming here as a collective measure to collaborate with us, and we'll certainly do what it is that we can, understanding that these things are a lot more difficult than just putting somebody on a list. You know what I mean? You can put anything on a list, then you got to get through all the requirements in order to be able to do that. Now, let's take this apart. Now, where are we at? The bulkheading permits, you have some bulkheading permits, and if somebody wants to address this, I don't know who can answer this, maybe you can.
Gannett Creek, I
Gannett
think you want to
Creek.
start with here.
Yeah, let's start with that. So if you could, you give us an exactly where we're at, and
North Haven Point, the West Side Hills, they were in the process of getting a permit for their bulkhead.
So North Haven Point has the permit to repair their bulkhead.
Okay.
So, yeah, so that work will begin soon.
They had gotten a permit
At some point, I
at some point. I don't know if there's, I don't believe there's a current permit from the trustees. I don't believe. And that was the.
So are they required to obtain a permit from this
Yes.
board?
Once they get the permit, which I believe they got at one point, they have a year to construct. If they don't construct within that year, they have to submit a renewal to continue that permit.
And you-
Okay, are they aware that they need to obtain a permit from this
they
board?
should be aware.
They should
If
be.
they had initially went through the permitting process, I believe they were well aware. Because they were at a meeting with all of us here, that was way before COVID, and the reason that the county didn't want to do the dredging is because of the large hole in their bulkhead, because it was almost for naught. I mean, you're gonna dredge this
Correct.
material, put it on the beach, and the next day it's gonna fill in, literally fill in. You could almost drive a truck through the bulkhead. That's how
So we'll have to
poorly-
make an approach.
Ed, didn't Terry Marine do repairs over there?
Yeah, they
Some
did a
point and got
temporary,
permit?
I'm gonna have to make some inquiries, but that was Terry
Last
Marine.
year?
Yeah,
So
I
let's
think
put
it was
this on the
last year.
list of a hurdle we've got to get through. Let's figure out where we're at in this part of the process, so maybe we can eliminate one hurdle,
Yeah,
okay? The
Yeah.
bulkhead.
Perfect. Me doing research in here for the trustees over time, I found an agreement with Mr. Morrell, who is the developer, to reconstruct the inlet in a different place. So basically, by getting that permit from the trustees, basically, your association is supposed to pay for the permitting and the dredging, not the county and not the trustees. That's the agreement that we have in our office right now. Mr. Rumpkus, I believe you're familiar with this. But somehow the county got going on this. They got a permit in the county's name for us, and they did do a couple dredgings down there. Subsequently, the permit has expired. They were not going to renew it because of the hole in the bulkhead, because it was, it was something that they thought that they wouldn't be able to, it wasn't worthwhile doing. But they need to have their dredge screening committee contacted again, give them the information. They need public access for a marina or for the public, not just your community, public at large. Like people can go down there, a launching ramp or a kayak launch or something like that, which there is none so that right there, there's no public benefit. Then there's an environmental screening that they also do. But they're also going to be aware of this agreement that was, around for many years, that they're really not liable to do it. You guys are. So, it's a process that we can ask them to look at it again. They did look at it previously. I don't know why or how they did it, but it was done. And I understand it now that it's become polluted. It is a public health issue, and it is also an environmental issue. So there are two dredge, as far as dredge screening goes, there's the navigation and then there's the environmental issues. So maybe if they're not going to do the environmental, maybe they'll look at it as the navigation, maybe they'll do it as environmental. It's questions that once the bulkhead gets fixed, then we can approach them. Until that is done, they're not going to really even be receptive to us approaching them.
I think you've done a very good job at articulating the environmental aspects of it. But I really think, like on this point, just so we're productive in our discussion here, let's see where we're at on that permit process on that bulkhead, and then some points are made up about the dredging. Let's see how we can make the case for the environmental aspect of
Yep.
that dredging, put together the best presentation we can. Like, we're using the terminology priority dredge list. If we don't even have a permit for something, we can't make it a priority. It's gonna get kicked right off. So we're gonna have to work together on how we get rid of those obstacles so that we get up to bat to even make that case. So I think we need to get our heads together on that. And I think they did bring up a lot of good points about the environmental aspects of it. So I think it's worthy to work on it, but we need to work together and focus on it. Since the last 4 or 5 years, I mean, they've gotten real strict with how they make decisions. Right as COVID was starting and before COVID, we were going to all these meetings because they were chopping weeks out of the actual dredge window, because now we were accounting for different windows of spawning fish, and we were now having to start to account for red knot birds, right? James, they threw red knot birds at us, which they don't live here, they stop here, they eat horseshoe crab eggs, and then they travel on. So they keep throwing more regulatory issues for us to try and figure out how to hopscotch around. And again, this is like the whole county. We're advocating for what we get. There are other people that are advocating for those resources in their communities, in their towns. So we do the best we can. But I think when you have, this board working with a group like yourselves, I think, in a more organized fashion, I really think that we have an excellent shot at making our points and getting the credibility we need to get something done. No guarantees,
Okay.
because, you got short windows of time, you got short amounts of budget, and you got a lot of considerations, but I think it's worth us working together on.
Well, one thing I can say, if that bulkhead was fixed and there was a good dredging project done, it would last probably a decade before you need another dredging.
Right.
But without it being fixed, it's literally the next week it's half filled up again. Because I'm a Bayman, I was down there and I've seen that place, they
Right.
dredged it, Costello did a dredge, and 2 weeks later, it was half full of
Plus, they don't
sand
want to
again.
take the responsibility. If you have people that have, dilapidated infrastructure, and then you come in and you start digging around that, they don't want to take the responsibility for, hey, listen, you damaged my bulkhead. Now the county is going to be responsible for somebody's dilapidated. They don't want to take that.
Yeah,
They
no,
don't wanna do
that's-
that.
That's well understood,
Yeah.
yes. So we're very happy that bulkhead is going to be fixed now.
Just
Yeah.
a quick,
17 years on this board, I've heard it's going to be fixed.
I did a quick search, just wanted to correct myself. What I was talking about before wasn't for a bulkhead replacement, it was for dredging. So I guess they did emergency dredging last year
Okay.
by Terry Marine. That was completed.
So there's
there
no-
was nothing for a bulkhead,
So-
and I searched back to 2016. There was nothing for a
Okay,
permit
so
for a bulkhead.
we'll have to
so-
address that.
So they would need to file an application before the trustees to, same as they done for the DEC and the Army Corps, we would need also an application to review to give them a permit to replace that bulkhead.
Okay,
So if you could relay that, we'll get working on it for you.
okay. And just so that I understand, that's because they need a permit for the bulkhead because the trustees have jurisdiction for that?
We own the underwater
creek?
lands.
Yes.
Because you own the
If we own the underwater lands,
Okay.
it's going to be on our property,
Okay,
therefore
understood.
we permit it.
Okay, understood. Yeah.
Sorry, hi, Chris Remkus. I just wanted to address the point on the dredging and the responsibility of the dredging between either the town, county, or the landholders of North Haven Point and North Haven Shores. And then there is, as you mentioned, the aspect of the environmental versus the navigable. So yes, over the years, we have also obtained our own permits for dredging, and I'm currently responsible for the ones that Terry used to dredge last year in the emergency dredging. We can surely maintain the navigability of the creek. That does nothing to address the environmental issue. We don't need anything more than, a 12-foot, 15-foot swath of 6-foot water. But, we have that, and we've maintained that, and we've paid $30,000 each time that we've dredged to do that. And we've gotten North Haven Point to share those costs with us. However, the creek continues to suffer from a lack of flow because, when the county last dredged in 2013, and I can show you pictures of it. My boat was still on the water, I think that November. It was completely wide open. At that time, the western bulkhead owned by North Haven Point was still in a state of disrepair. The county made a point of saying, we're not going to dredge right up to it because we're afraid of the collapse and the liability of that. But they did an excellent job, and they actually pumped the sand where it belongs back to the west and up on the beach. And that area is actually now getting worn away to the point where it probably will break through to the creek once again. So there is that environmental aspect that really needs to be addressed. We can continue to dredge, and the creek will continue to suffer. We'll continue to have navigability. The other point, Mr. Warner, that you mentioned was about public access. There's always a ton of boats coming through there. There's paddle boarders, what have you. The village owns property right up to the land, which is public property, which we've donated to Greenbelt, that property. Also, the village owns, I think it's practically 75 feet of buffer zone all the way around the creek itself. So there's no lack of public access.
Right, so those are all important points that we're gonna have to make when we're asking for something to go on a priority dredge list that actually stands the chance of going through the screening portion of it. You know what I mean? There are several different aspects that you have to get the approvals from. So when you're making these cases of the environmental and then stating all of this, that's all very helpful. Just because you go on the priority, we request it doesn't mean it's going to get honored. So you want to get it honored. So the better job that we do at making our case, the better chance that we stand at getting it done, especially when they're, taking a look at where they're going to next. Weather conditions, breakdowns, spawning winter flounder over here, and there's birds over there. Well, where are we going? Let's go here. You know what I mean? We have to work together on making that case. That way, it's not just a placeholder on the list. And the questions are always about where, do you have an active permit now? And where the dredge spoil is going to go. You know what I mean? So when you have these things answered, where there's no issue from Army Corps, from the state DEC, we don't have 17 nests of plovers that are in the area that the sand's supposed to get pumped to, and everyone's like, yeah, that's not. If you have things that are a go, then you got a chance at getting this thing done, and you're good. So we're gonna have to work together on
Excellent.
on making that case.
Well, we're certainly serious about it. And Jeff, I don't know if you want to mention, but we had also discussed when we had met with you, Mr. Warner, and with Bridget Fleming about the public access. We do have North Haven Village Hall, which abuts right there, and we can certainly put in kayak racks and kayak accessibility there as well. We want a healthy body of water, and whatever it's going to take to get it.
That's good.
Yeah.
I mean, that's
Yeah, I think this, when I was mayor, we had a.
You got to speak from the mic, sir.
And we're even looking at, and I think the village continues to look at, we have an overlook area and a couple of bridges that have access via Village Hall, and we're considering putting in kayak racks there so residents can come down in their kayaks. They already have access to it from the bay, so there is plenty of public access in that respect. So if there's any question about public access, I think we can address that pretty adequately.
Right, so I my suggestion would be that, whatever, we would have to make that case and put it together at the time at which it goes for a request where there are permits. If we put something on with no permits, what are you doing? It's priority list, you don't have permits. You know what I mean? That's going to get looked at right away. But if we get to that point where we have them, and we make this case, you're all bringing up valid points.
Yep. Thank you.
Okay.
Okay?
Thank you.
Is there something else you want to?
As far as Fresh Pond goes, we have acquired the Army Corps and the DEC permit. It was a long permitting process. We renewed it prior to the permit that we had previously expiring, thinking that we would be able to just like sister one permit right into another. But unfortunately, the Army Corps and National Marine Fisheries put several new criterias on the permit, which we were able to acquire the information with the help of a consulting firm, InterScience, and myself and the rest of the board, working very diligently. So we have a permit in hand, which is good news, so that the people at the Saw Pond have a template to work off of. As far as, I mean, we acquired the permit, we paid for the permitting, and it is a cost share for Fresh Pond when we do the dredging with the homeowners and the trustees. It's a pretty costly endeavor because we have to take the material and put it off-site. If you have a salt pond, you have the beach right next to you, and you have homeowners that agreed to take that material, you're gonna cut down the cost of the project probably about $15,000 or $20,000 in moving the material and, selling it.
Which is another interesting point to bring up, and that is that there used to be a separate, on the town side, budget for dredging, right? And that was eliminated around, for the trustees. it was-
2006, 7, when I first became
Right,
trustee.
so now, we don't have, our budget here at the Board of Trustees at this point in time is not a gigantic budget where we have all kinds of money to pay for this. And we have to pay prevailing wage and everything else. So it gets very, very costly on how it all goes. We're working on transitioning over to being a district, and, that's all being worked on now as we head into the next year. But it has to be done by September, I believe. So, these are all things that we have to look at because it's important from the standpoint of our entire town and the environmental aspects. How do you pay for all of this?
Well, that was going to be my question,
Yep.
that if Great Salt Pond and the other pond are both, or were dredged by the county, what was the criteria for that?
The
Fresh
county
Pond, or
would
they
not, they would not
sort of-
dredge like the pond, the salt pond you talk, it's too shallow for them to get their equipment in there. And so it would not be a practical dredge for them because they have a large barge and they need some like 4 or 5 feet of water to dredge. And that would be something where we do like an excavator and spot dredge in the channel wherever there's a high spot and get that material out and put it on the beach and allow for just more of a flow of water in and out like we've done for Fresh Pond.
With fresh, so it's like, yeah, okay.
The county did buy equipment, I think, to handle some of these aspects, but again, that's a request that we make, putting together what the, and whether they honor that request, that's gonna be up to them, whether they make that determination if they're gonna do that. I mean, where I live, we end up, as an association, all having to pay assessments and do the dredging work, where I live. We haven't been able to get anybody to do that for us, so we're all just assessing ourselves and paying for the dredging personally. So, sometimes you can get these county programs to work out, and other times it doesn't work out, and the group of homeowners end up paying. But it's a necessary evil, it's gotta be done.
So could you give us some insight as to what the steps would be around Great Salt Pond to start on that project towards dredging?
You'd need to do sediment sampling and grain size analysis to see if it's compatible for the beach. It came from the beach and it should go back on the beach, but I'll say no more because the state has sometimes a different idea of where it should go. Once you get that acquired, see if there are any volatile organic compounds in it, and then you'll know if it can be put directly on the beach to a certified landfill. And you would also have to basically do a site map and the extent of the dredging that needs to be done. Like Fresh Pond, we do the dredging and there's a specific area where when the water comes rushing in, it's like almost like an outflow plane inside the pond. It builds up where the sediment loses its, carrying ability for the water to push it in. That's where it builds up. So we dredge that little hump out, and it allows the water to go lower and to come in quicker, and you get a better exchange. So the pond cools and flushes better during the warmer months.
Do you work with any permit expediters, or do you have somebody, in the village that handles this? Because, even right down to where you're gonna dredge, what's its relationship to the wetland vegetation that's there, because, you can't do something and get too close, and now you're created more of a problem than a solution. You're gonna need a nice set of plans, really, to do this. So somebody has to have that ability to put that all together. So I don't know whether you have somebody in-house that does that, or whether you have
We don't have anybody in-house.
third party, you may want to interview some third-party organizations, as many people do, to engage.
You could advise
You already have the template for the whole project, so
Yeah.
that's why I said that opening statement that.
Use the same template
that you
from
can-
Fresh Pond.
Yeah, but it's gonna be a much larger scale because
Yeah.
theirs is a very small, narrow channel. Yours is a wider, flatter channel, so each project's a little bit different.
Right, and you're gonna need to show a lot of detailed information on that when you're approaching the regulatory authorities. You know, if you wanna get this thing done, so you're probably gonna wanna sit and have a conversation about who's best suited to draw those plans and make that case. You know, we'll do what we can for you here, you know, support-wise and trying to help you, you know, get it across the finish line. But you're talking about you know, a lot of hurdles that have to be overcome, and it doesn't happen overnight. You know, things that were done, and you can watch it, it's a matter of public record, things that were done for hundreds of years get stalled. And it does more harm than it does good, but this is the system that we're working in. So that's why I'm glad you came to us, because we're more than happy to try and work with you and try and
3 years,
get this thing done.
3 years? Getting the permit.
Okay.
I mean,
Took us about 3 years to get a permit that we had just renewing, so it was a process. But we already have all the information, you know, it's all there.
Question. Just going back up to Gannett Creek. So after just trying to look at actionable items for you guys, so after the bulkhead permit is looked into and the next steps with that as far as timeline, then transitioning over to the actual permit for the dredging. So do you gather your plans, your spoil site and so forth, or do you meet with the screening committee?
No, I think you're gonna have to get, you know, I think you're gonna have to get permits before you even get to screening committee. I think if you don't have permits,
Well, the screening permit would give you the, not, you know, basically you can go forward with the county or not with the county.
well,
So-
it seems as though this is gonna have to get done regardless of whether or not the county is gonna engage in it. They're gonna need permits
Mhm.
to deal with that waterway either way.
Mr. Horowitz, I believe we do actually have
You have it
the
now.
DEC and the Army Corps permits
For
for
the
the
dredging.
dredging. For the
Well, that's-
dredging.
Yeah, but that's not for hydraulic dredging, that's for mechanical dredging.
Uh,
Two different animals.
Right.
You know what, could you send a copy of that over to us? And
Yes.
why don't you do this? Why don't you send a copy of that over to James? Let us take a look at what it is that you have. And I think then we can better advise if that's gonna suit what it is, because sometimes there has to be modifications. Even down to the point of, you know, like the last one we had to get a transfer of the permit
Yeah.
from the association's name off to the county's name, or it wasn't gonna happen. If you can send over to James, then we can look at that, and then we can give you a better actionable item list on that, based on what he has. I think would be good.
Certainly. And just to mention, you know, last time that the county did do the dredging in 2013, even though the bulkhead on the western side was in disrepair, the mouth stayed open for nearly 5 years. You know, the maintenance dredging that we do is just maintaining the navigability of it. And, you know, Mr. Warner's right, that fills in very quickly, but when they can do it hydraulically and take out that mountain of sand that's
Right.
sitting at the entrance, it actually does last a long time.
Right.
And I remember the gentleman, I can't think of his name at the moment, from the county, said, you know, we expect these things should last 5 to 6 years. We actually saw that, and you can talk to my neighbor and Chris Duryea, who's also a Bayman, would tell you that, you know, the life in our creek was so much better.
Sure.
You know, the quality of the water, the life, the fishing, everything was better after that 2013 dredging.
Sure, you get to Flushing,
Yeah.
much better water quality.
You know, and if Mr. Warner's correct that what we have currently in place is for hydraulic, then if we could get some guidance from your folks as to what we need to do to amend that.
Right, if it's mechanical going to hydraulic, you mean.
Right.
We just did that, we've just done that process.
I know. So you know what, send
Yeah,
that over,
yeah.
let's look at that.
Yeah.
Okay.
We gotta look at that and see, because we're making assumptions on things, which is always bad. So let's take a look at what you specifically had, and then I think it will be more
Okay,
telling.
great. Yeah, they were just literally granted within the last couple of weeks.
Right.
Okay.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
we're going through permit modifications all the time with this stuff.
Okay. Any other questions?
You good?
Okay. Well, thank you very much. We really appreciate your guidance and your time and advice to us.
Feel
And
free
we
to reach
We
out
look
anytime.
forward to working with you
Yep.
going forward. These are important projects to
Yes, they
us.
Yes, yes. Thank you for
And-
all
and-
for
and-
taking the interest to be
Yeah.
here today and for your previous work and your ongoing work.
Reach out anytime, we'll help you any way we can.
We will.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, that was great.
Oh, look at this, another dredging project.
All right. So,
It hasn't changed. Thank you.
we've got a
Hi,
public,
Chris.
take care now. Okay, we have a public notice that we're putting on, public hearing notice, right?
Yep.
You have a resolution as a walk-on for that. Yeah.
We do.
You will, yes, you do.
Public hearing to hear all persons for or against a request to alter the path of a proposed dredge project at Far Pond, as well as request to change the deposition of the dredge spoil location for May 15, 2023 at 1 o'clock PM. Do we have that here, this walk-on? We have it? Can I get
Lisa
permission
has
to walk a resolution on?
Yeah, it's at the end.
It's at the end.
Of the agenda.
Yep.
You want to leave it at the end, or do you want to?
So it's
can do
not a
it now.
walk-on?
It's not a walk-on.
Well,
What is a walk-on? That's how we have
Oh,
it
I
listed,
see.
yes. Yeah,
Okay.
why don't we do this now,
You want to
Scott?
do it right now? All
Yeah.
right, so permission to walk on this,
Second that, Scott.
seconded, trustee Warner, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, so we have a walk-on.
So question, how will the community be notified of this?
Through the newspaper.
Standard.
There's nothing, there's no signage
It
that
goes
will
out
be-
in front of, as soon as you approve it, I will go downstairs, it'll go to the newspapers. Once that's done, I'll print it out, stamp it, and put it out on our board.
And we have been communicating with them, so they know.
Can
Goes
I,
up-
can I also recommend that we put a public hearing notice sign at the end of Far Pond Road before you drive on the beach?
Yes, that's what I was after.
There are dozens of people that walk down that beach daily, and we should have it there for them to read and to,
And who's gonna put it up?
Well, I
if you
guess,
get it, if you get it made, I'll stick it up.
You got it.
It'll
I will
it'll
have
get
it
up.
made. I will have it made for you first thing in the morning.
okay, so we
Okay.
walked it on.
Just a copy of the resolution, is that what you want down there?
Oh, I know how to do it. I know how to do the sign.
Right,
Yeah, I have
we're gonna make calls, notify them anyway. They already know we're having this public hearing. I'm sure that the folks will.
I think it's important.
No,
to
we'll
have
do that, but
signage there.
we've also been
I really do.
communicating.
Yep.
Yeah, you can
No.
put that there, but we already have been on the phone.
In light of
They
the
know.
bridge and all the issues, and the signage was in the right position, and whatever, we're gonna put it right at the end of the road where people walk the beach.
So let me go with trustee resolution 2023-144. It's a notice of public hearing to hear all persons for or against a request to alter the path of proposed dredge project at Far Pond and Shinnecock Hills. Be resolved that a public hearing will be held on May 15, 2023, to hear all persons for or against a request to alter the path of a proposed dredge project at Far Pond, as well as a request to change the deposition of the dredge spoil location. Is there a motion to?
Motion?
Seconded by trustee Powell, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, so you can put that sign up,
All right.
and like I said, we are already in communication with these folks as well.
Yep.
And then we'll keep moving forward in this
Public portion.
public process
And
here.
What about the other side of the beach?
The west side?
You want to do two?
Well,
give me-
special counsel, what's your thoughts on it?
you're giving more notice than you need to. One more isn't gonna hurt.
Okay,
So I'll do two signs for you.
All right.
you put them in. All right,
There's a lot of people that walk that beach too, James.
public portion, is there anybody on the Zoom, Charles, that wants to address? No? All right, so moving right along here, we got the application for permits. The Board of Trustees hereby waives a public hearing on the following applications because it has been determined that the following projects do not raise a significant degree of public interest or public input is not needed to aid in the decision-making process. And in these cases, they've already been gone through the work session, which has been a public work session. So trustee resolution 2023-128, application to Shinbone Bay LLC, 48 Shinnecock Road. It's in the village of Quogue, tax map number 902-10-3-9.9. I recommend this approval.
Second.
Seconded, trustee Warner, all in favor?
Aye.
Trustee Resolution 2023-129.
Application is 289 Noyak LLC at location 289 Noyak Road, North Sea, tax map 900-60-3-9.1, body of water, North Sea.
Seconded, Billy.
Seconded,
Thanks.
trustee Warner, all in favor?
Aye.
Trustee Resolution 130. Recall and amend Trustee Resolution 2022-121, permit GP 000413, application of Michael DeStefano for 3604 Lane, Shinnecock Hills, tax map 900-211-04-57, body of water 04 Pond, whereas April 18th, 2022, the trustee resolution 2022-1221 was adopted as following, where the trustees find the subject of the type 2 action, let me read this whole thing. The subject to condition upon the pencil received of all approvals and required pursuit of the Town of Code, Southampton resolved, the trustee resolution 2022-121 hereby amended as following.
Just real quick, the change, the only change for this was there was a error
In clerical.
submitted, and it was approved at 30 foot by 11 foot, which would be 30 foot wide, not 30 inches.
Inches wide.
So it's changing it back to 30 inches by 11 foot ramp, so.
It's just to correct the scrivener's error.
Yeah, just correct.
Yeah.
So I'll second that.
Okay, thanks.
Seconded by trustee Warner, all in favor? Thank you for your clarification. James Duryea.
2023-131, application of Walter Cunner at 56 Cold Spring Point Road, Tuckahoe, tax map 900-55-1-56, body of water, Cold Spring.
Second.
Seconded, trustee Warner, all in favor?
Aye. Trustee Resolution 2023-132, application of Jonathan Tabone, 80 Harbor Drive, Noyak, New York, Suffolk County Tax Map 900-9-3-45, body of water, Sag Harbor Cove. We worked through this extensively at work session so that it would meet pier line and water depth and Blue Book, other Blue Book guidelines. I'd like to recommend its approval.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Trustee Resolution 2023-133, application for Henry Hildreth, 50 Little Neck Road, Shinnecock Hills, Suffolk County Tax Map 900-234-4-16, body of water, Old Fort Pond. We worked on this at work session. I recommend its approval.
Second.
Seconded, trustee Pell, all in favor?
Aye. Trustee Resolution 2023-134, application for 86 Forster Avenue LLC, 86 Forster Avenue, Hampton Bays, Suffolk County Tax Map 900-374-2-3.1, body of water, Foster's Creek. We went through this at work session, so I recommend its approval.
Second.
Seconded, trustee Pell, all in favor?
Aye.
Trustee Resolution 2023-135, application for Strong's Old Fort Pond Marina LLC, 74 Little Neck Road, Shinnecock Hills, Suffolk County Tax Map 900-234-4-13, body of water, Fort Pond. We worked on this at work session. It's all compliant, so I recommend its approval.
Second.
Seconded, both trustees Pell and Welker at the same time, all in favor?
Aye.
Trustee Resolution 2023-136, application of Robert McHugh, 59 Cliff Drive, Noyak, New York, Suffolk County Tax Map number 900-9-1-15, body of water, Sag Harbor Cove. This is an application to replace a heavily deteriorated timber bulkhead and to replace it with a low-sill bulkhead. I'd like to recommend its approval.
Second that.
Seconded, trustee Warner, all in favor? Aye.
Trustee Resolution 2023-137, application of Stephen Harwin, 7 Meadow Lane, West Hampton, New York, Suffolk County Tax Map number 900-382-1-17.17, body of water, Sandpiper Canal.
Second.
Seconded, trustee Pell, all in favor?
Aye.
general miscellaneous. 20
Trustee Resolution 2023-138. This is to authorize trustee president to execute a professional services contract with Solitude Lake Management for electrofishing survey, removal, and management program for Mill Pond. I'm just going to read this so that it goes into the record. Whereas trustees have received a proposal from Solitude Lake Management for an electrofishing survey, removal, and management program for Mill Pond, whereas the commencement of this contract shall be upon the receipt of a fully executed contract and shall expire December 31st, 2023. Trustees shall have the option to renew this contract for 4 additional one-year terms if doing so is in the best interest of the trustees. Now therefore be it resolved that the Board of Trustees of the Freeholders and Commonalty of the Town of Southampton hereby authorize trustee president to execute a contract with Solitude Lake Management for electrofishing survey, removal, and management program for Mill Pond. The commencement of this contract, as stated previously, will be upon the receipt of a fully executed contract and shall expire December 31st, 2023. Resolve the source of this funding shall be carp removal, contracts and GL number C9-99-H5300-00-6401-0000 in an amount not to exceed $17,000. I'd like to recommend its approval.
Trustee Warner, all in favor?
Aye. Trustee Resolution 2023-139. This is Wildlife Preservation Piping Plover Program. It's to acknowledge and accept payment from the Village of Southampton as a contribution towards the trustees' managed piping plover program in the amount of $9,850. We thank the village for this and gratefully accept this.
Yes,
I'd like to recommend its approval.
I'll second that, yeah.
Second, Trustee Warner, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Resolution 2023-140. Authorize the Board of Trustees to waive 2023 moorings application fee of $300 for the Sea Scouts of America in North Sea Harbor. A second for that.
Second.
Second, Trustees Warner and Parrish, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, we got a trustee resolution 2023-141, recall and amend resolution 2023-121. 121 we adopted on 4/17 for emergency repairs at Spionk Shore. We listed it at $1,128.15, and whereas Riverhead Building sent us an invoice for $1163.50 for the total materials. And therefore, we need to recall the resolution and amend it to list the correct amount of $1163.50.
Second.
Seconded, Trustee Pell, all in favor?
Aye. 2023-142, Budget and Financing, recall and amend trustee 2023-109.
You want to go further with that? Or?
I'm just reading, for the Southampton Town Trustee Resolution 2023-109 adopted on April 3rd of 2023, approved addition funded for part-time salary in amount of $49,000. Whereas the village donated to the Southampton Town Trustee for the Pipe and Plover Program amount of $9,850, where the amount addition funded allocated to the town needs to be changed to reflect the donation from the Village of Southampton. So now therefore there be that results resolved. 2023-109 should be recalled and amended to the list correct amount of $39,150 will be provided to the town to fund additional part-time salaries to be it further.
Thank you.
I'll second that.
Seconded, Trustee Warner, all in favor?
Aye.
I wanted you to read that in because it's important.
Yeah, because that way we don't overspend.
Well, this is a trust, and the trustee's responsibility, fiduciary duty, is to be mindful of the trust. And we don't want to, exactly as you said, overspend.
Have the money sitting there not used,
Well, or disappear.
disappear. I didn't want to say that.
Well, it's not going back into the trust fund
No.
balance.
So resolution 2023-143, warrant 8 of 2023. As per recommended review by the town comptroller, the following vendor payment warrant A be approved for the amount of $10,903.47. Card member service, $2,245.26. Bobcat of Long Island Medford, $668.26. PSG, $61.35. South Shore Docks, $4,800. Mason, $202.20. William Lawbrook, $2,926.40, amount of $10,903.47.
Seconded, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, so we did the walk-on. Is there any,
Scott, can we
Yeah.
go back to one real quick?
Sure.
Sorry I didn't catch it right away, but 7 Bay Meadow Lane resolution, there was this request for a special condition for that one, but it wasn't put in there. Must have been between Mark and Nick at some point. That has not been put in yet, so I don't know if we can amend it.
Which resolution number is it?
It's 2023-137. It's for the dredging, Scott, that you had requested a specific condition for that one. Just, I know that Mark was working on it, and there's email correspondence back and forth, and I don't think it was ever put into the resolution. I don't see it on here, so.
You have a
Or
copy
somebody
of it?
should, if since.
Oversight?
Well, if it has to still be worked on, then I would recommend that we ask to reopen, since everybody voted for it. Anyone can make the motion, second it, and then just table it.
well, do you know what the wording is that's got to go in here? We
I
don't know.
don't know
Mark's still
the
working on it.
exact, I know that it was discussed at the work session. You had stated it, and then Mark had worked on the language.
It was following the
And
material.
Recall and table it. Recall and table it
We had
until you
asked
get
him
the
to-
actual
we had
language
asked him
from.
To put it right into the resolution, but he came down with written, like a whole sheet of written changes that we never were able to make.
Okay.
Recall and table.
So trustee Parrish, this is your, maybe you want to,
Trustee Resolution 2023-137. This is the application of Stephen Harwin, 7 Bay Meadow Lane, West Hampton, New York, Suffolk County Tax Map Number 900-382-1-17.17, body of water, Sandpiper Canal. I move that this resolution be recalled and tabled.
Second.
seconded, trustee Powell, all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Okay, put this one on
We'll put it on the next one.
Yeah.
next
Put it
work
on
session
15th.
agenda to double check it. Make sure
Oh,
it's
next
good.
work session, or?
Well, yeah, well, this way we can all double check it, and then it can go on for the
Okay.
next general session right after. It'll be
Yeah.
Okay.
an extra fail-safe since it's special.
So a
meeting.
draft
Okay.
resolution will be on for.
We'll look at it in this way. it'll-
Same day meeting.
Right, for the same day meeting. This way we're not, this way you got more eyes on it.
Okay.
Okay, is there any, I know we covered a lot of ground today. Is there anything else that anybody wants to bring up? Because we don't need exec, we've already done exec, and it's been a long day so far. So is there anything that anybody wants to bring up, or? Okay, go ahead.
I just want to mention, James, I just sent you a couple emails. I don't know if you want to bring them up or not with photos. You don't have to, though. I just want to say, Sag Pond, with the rain that we've had a really rainy spring, so it's at or above opening, so we need to see. Are there plovers there, as far as you know?
I requested the site visit, so I should get them shortly. I'll
Okay.
probably have them by
Do we have
tomorrow.
a resolution that's current?
Yeah.
Taking action,
Yes.
so we're
That's current.
covered?
Yeah,
We just have
but-
to submit the modification request,
Two.
which, to the DEC.
For the birds.
For both.
Right. And Mecox is, so SAG looks like this. That,
Well,
like
yeah.
the oranges, I've been
Yep.
keeping my
4
eye on
inches
it,
under.
but, yeah. And Mecox looks like that. So we've still got a little time with Mecox, but we're gonna have to,
Good
so.
We probably should,
Requested the
Yes.
Clover report for both of them.
Yes.
And we'll request modification to the permit
Yes.
as well.
absolutely.
Just so that we,
Proactive.
yeah, because it's supposed to rain
The end of the
much
week.
of
Tonight.
this week, I think.
But we had over
Thank
2
you.
inches
You got-
of rain last night in Hampton Bays and Point C's. So that trickle-down effect is gonna really fill up Mecox in the next couple days.
Absolutely, with the runoff going into that watershed.
Being proactive before the busy season
Let's-
on the
yeah.
beach.
Okay, so we're wheels in motion with that.
There was a motion, we've asked for
Okay.
reports, so I'll work on it.
Anything else?
Modification request.
Those
Good.
are the important things, yeah.
We good? Anybody else? Nothing? Somebody want to make a motion?
I'll make a motion,
Two,
close the meeting.
Second.
seconded by trustee Pell. Folks out there, have a
All
great
right.
day. Take care. Close.